All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about the e-commerce profit matrix. And what this essentially is the three main KPIs that you need to know when it comes to profitability, especially around acquisition. So of course, there's stuff on the back end with your COGS, with all kinds of stuff that goes into your business, but this is looking at purely acquisition. So if you're running ads on Meta, Google, TikTok, wherever you're running advertising, these are the the three metrics that you need to know in order to actually be profitable. So we'll go through and we will look at each one individually. And as I reveal them, you'll start to see how each of them interacts with each other and how if you have just one of these off, the rest of them are kind of going to be, they're just going to have to work a lot harder. So you want to make sure that you hit on all three of these. So without further ado, let's get into each one. Go ahead and get into it. The first lever that you're going to pull, I'm going to reveal it right now, is going to be the most obvious, and that is CAC. That's your customer acquisition cost. So the definition, in case you don't know what it is how much it costs to acquire a new customer from ads, agency fees, creative, etc. So there's a couple different ways you can calculate CAC. There's a blended CAC, which is generally the blended CAC across all your channels. There's like a total CAC, which is kind of what this is saying. It's not just your ad costs, but your agency fees, creative. It's like everything that goes into actually getting a customer. I know people calculate it different ways, but I'd say the more that you can put into this, the better of a read you're going to get on your true CAC. Some people do just ad spend divided by new customers, and that's fine too. But generally, it's just how much it costs you to acquire new customers. So it's influenced by a couple things: your ad efficiency, like CTR and CPA, your creative performance, targeting and audience quality, website conversion rate, brand trust and messaging. And the bottom line impact is if your CAC gets too high, even great retention won't save short-term cash flow. You'll scale yourself broke. So this is super important because if you don't know your CAC and if you don't know the CAC that you can tolerate, you can't realistically scale in a predictable way because you're not going to know whether you're profitable or not. If I know that I have a target CAC of $50 and anything under that is profitable acquisition, or if I have an offer on the back end that takes care of an unprofitable acquisition on the front end, like subscription, for example, I need to know what that CAC payback is, and I need to know the period. So if I have a $50 CAC, but maybe I acquire a customer for $60, if I have a subscription program and I know that after month 2, I'm going to pay back that CAC, that's okay. Then I can run unprofitable on the front end. If you don't, then you need to get your CAC below $50, obviously. So it's extremely important. And the way to calculate this, again, is just take your total cost of what it costs to acquire a customer and then divide that by the total number of new customers. And again, this is only on new customers because it's the cost to acquire a customer. So if it's a returning customer, technically you've already paid to acquire them. They're in your funnel. You hit them with retention, emails, SMS, all that. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. So KPI number 1 is CAC. Now the next one, KPI 2, let's see what this is going to be. So we're going to unveil this. And KPI 2 is AOV, average order value. This one is surprisingly not talked about as much as I feel like it should. Obviously, most people understand what AOV is. It's your average order value. It's how much a customer pays on average for one order. And this is influenced by bundles and upsells, product pricing strategy, offers like buy one, get one free shipping thresholds, and bottom line impact is raising AOV is the fastest way to increase profit without lowering ad costs. So the reason that I said that this isn't talked about as much is because everyone is obsessed with lowering CAC, getting CPAs lower in the ads, more efficiency, better ads, and that's great. And you need to optimize for that. But what you need to understand is that there's a floor. You can only optimize your ads to a certain degree. You can't get it to 0. And in fact, advertising costs are only going up. So it's extremely hard to get down to a certain level versus AOV. You can technically always increase your AOV. Obviously it's not going to be outlandish. If you have an average order value of like $50, you're probably not going to get your average order value to $500 overnight, but you can easily 2, 3, 4x your AOV with really good offers. And so what that looks like, I put it in here, but anything from like a BOGO, buy one, get one, subscription offers, bundles, there's all kinds of ways that you can do it and package it. And that's really what it comes down to is positioning and packaging. And so you'll be amazed at what customers are willing to pay if they think that they're getting more value out of it than what they're actually spending. So a customer will easily spend $150 when they normally spend $50 if they think they're getting $500 worth of value from that. So this all goes into offer creation, bundling, upsells, cross sells, downsells, just really having a good offer ecosystem and not just running ads to a simple PDP and just saying, hey, here's our offer. Maybe you get 10, 20% off. So AOV is the second one, and they directly impact each other because AOV, a higher AOV just makes it easier to advertise. If you can tolerate a higher CAC, which is what it does, then it's just a lot easier to advertise. So that's the second one. Third one we're going to reveal is LTV, another one that people don't really think about as much as they should. So LTV is just the total revenue a customer generates over a lifetime, right? If you get one customer and let's say their first order is $50, but maybe they order 3 more times after that and it's $50 a pop, their LTV is $150 because it's 3 orders times the $50 AOV, right? And so this too, if you know this, which a lot of people struggle to actually understand what their AOV is, if you know this, then you can also tolerate a little bit higher CAC if you just know the general life cycle on how long it takes to get that money back. So it's influenced by a couple things: retention, email, SMS, subscription, loyalty, product quality and experience. Is it good enough for them to want to come back? Post-purchase nurturing and upsells, your brand affinity, how strong is your brand? And the bottom line impact is without strong LTV, you're forced to win on ad efficiency, which again, there's a floor. You can only get so good on that. And so LTV obviously is directly impacted by AOV, which is why I kind of went in this order of CAC is the first touch point. Essentially, it's like, how much am I costing to get them through the door? Once they're through the door, how much are they spending? And then how long can I keep them as a customer? And how can I get them to come back and spend more? So the third one is LTV. And now we'll see how each of these interacts with the other. And so this one is obviously your front end acquisition. Your CAC and your AOV directly impact the front end. So when you first get a customer, the CAC and the AOV are the inputs. Now between LTV and AOV, it's your revenue per customer. So how much money are we actually getting out of each customer? AOV is on the front end, and then LTV is over the entire life cycle of that customer. And then between LTV and CAC, it's simply what is the lifetime value. So knowing how much it costs to acquire a customer, if I know that I'm going to get $500 out of that customer, if my CAC is $50 or even say $100, I know that on average, I'm going to get $500 out of that customer. That's a 5-to-1 return. I'm okay spending $100 to get that customer. And so these three all directly impact profit. Again, this is just on acquisition, not taking into account your COGS or shipping or any of that kind of stuff. But this is where it starts. If you're not profitable in acquisition, or if you don't have a roadmap on how to get profitable through LTV or offers or anything like that, then everything else is going to be completely harder. And it's just going to make your life and your business so much more difficult. So I highly recommend really dial in each of these. Again, this one is influenced by creative volume, creative diversity, just having good ads, and generally good funnel. This one's by having a good offer, getting as much out of the customer on that first order as you can. And then LTV comes into play when it's the life cycle of your customer. How long do they stay? How much do they spend with you? And so if we look at all three of these, what is the impact on your business? So these are some profitability scenarios, and this puts it into a really good perspective on how each of these interacts with each other and what it looks like if you have maybe one or two dialed in, but the other's off. So up here at the top, this is the best case scenario out of all of these. If you have a low CAC, a high AOV, and a high LTV, that means that you're getting customers for a low cost. You have a high average order value, so you're already probably profitable on the acquisition, and you have a high LTV. You have a good brand affinity. They want to come back. Maybe you have subscriptions, something like that. In this case, that's a 9 out of 10. It's pretty much a 10 out of 10, honestly. This is the best you can do. You're acquiring customers at a cheap rate. They're spending a lot on that first order, which covers your acquisition costs, which allows you to scale, and you have a high LTV on the back end, so you can really push it and scale as much as you want. Then this next one we have is high CAC, high AOV, high LTV. So still have a high AOV. They're spending a lot and they're staying around for a long time, but your CAC is a little bit higher. So in this case, it's costing you a lot to acquire the customer, but you're still getting a lot of money out of the customer on the first order. So maybe you're break even, maybe you're a little bit unprofitable, but your LTV on the back end will take care of it and you're ultimately still profitable. So this one is rated a 7 out of 10. This one is the worst one. You have a high CAC, a low AOV, and a low LTV. In this case, for example, you might be spending $100 to get a customer. Your AOV is $50, so you're already $50 in the hole before product costs. And you've a low LTV. Maybe they don't come back, or maybe they only come back once, but it still doesn't make up that $50 difference between your CAC and your AOV. That's a 1 out of 10. You obviously can't scale this way, and you're just going to be burning money. Next one is low CAC, low AOV, high LTV. This is one that I see a lot of supplement brands running subscription do, is they have a lower CAC, but they also have a lower AOV, but then they have a high LTV on the back end. So it's not costing them a whole lot to get a customer, but the customer is actually not spending a lot on that first order, but they have subscription on the back end, which kind of covers that cost over time. It's just a longer payback period, which is obviously riskier. So gets a 6 out of 10. Next one is high CAC, high AOV, low LTV. So an example of this might be like a drop shipping store or more of a direct response funnel, like a single product store, not a true brand, where maybe they put together a good offer that gets a high AOV, but it's a high CAC because it's, I don't know, a niche market or something. But there's a low LTV. People don't really come back. It's like they don't have anything else to offer essentially. So this gets a 3 out of 10 because it's kind of a waste of time. Like you're spending a lot to get a customer, you're getting a lot on the first order, but it's probably about break even, and then you get no money on the back end. It just doesn't make sense. The last one is low CAC, moderate AOV, and high LTV. So this one's pretty scalable. You're getting a low CAC, so it's not costing you a whole lot to get a customer. AOV is okay. Maybe you're break even, give or take, but you have a high LTV on the back end, so it takes care of it. Again, it's just a little bit longer payback period, but this gets an 8 out of 10. This is the second best one. So given all that, you obviously want to get as close to this first one as you can with a low CAC, high AOV, high LTV. But as you can see, even if you have a moderate AOV and a high LTV, it takes care of you. Or even if you have a high CAC, I think this is the most relevant one for a lot of brands. CACs are really high right now, and they're only getting higher. And so as long as you combat that with a high AOV and a high LTV, you're going to be okay. 7 out of 10, it's not bad. It's easier to bring this up and this up versus getting this down, even though everyone focuses on just getting this down. Again, there's a floor. Like you can only get it down to a certain amount. Technically, there's no limit on these. You would be amazed if you put together a really good offer on how much you could squeeze out of a customer just on the front end and then on the back end as well. So all that being said, this is the profitability matrix. This is what goes into creating profitable acquisition on the front end. And then obviously focusing on LTV is extremely important on the back end. So this is the e-commerce profitability matrix when it comes to acquisition. And I highly recommend that you optimize for all three of these because it's just going to make your life and your business a lot easier. If you got value out of this, please subscribe, leave a comment. I answer all the comments, and let me know what you want to see in the next one.